Hello, I'm Raj Chengappa, and I'm at the headquarters of the Serum Institute of India in Pune. Serum Institute is the world's largest vaccine manufacturer. And on COVID vaccines, it has done a sterling job. It has produced over 1.3 billion doses already. And for those of us in India, it is known as Covishield. And I have the pleasure of and the privilege of interviewing Mr. Adar Poonawalla, the Chief Executive Officer of the Serum Institute of India. Adar, thank you for being with us.
Pleasure to be here and talk to you, Raj.
Adar, let's begin with this whole thing when COVID began in March 2020. What was the challenge? What went in your mind? You were sitting here and suddenly this huge pandemic breaks out. Were you prepared? What went into your decision making?
Well, when the WHO, classified this as a pandemic that's going to potentially cause disruptions to travel and, result in this virus, spreading and creating havoc all across the globe, we had two choices. Either sit and wait as a manufacturer for a technology to prove itself or a vaccine to be licensed and then try to enter into a collaboration with someone or, partner with multiple different innovators in academia such as Oxford and then Novavax and some others to start building facilities at risk and then stockpiling production at risk. Of course, that came with a lot of challenges. Every month there was a new challenge, whether it was raising capital, partnering with these people, getting your permissions and licenses, and then even after we were licensed, there were challenges on supply. The country needed a lot more, a lot faster when we were hit with the second wave. So we've encountered all these challenges, we've overcome them, and now India is in a very good position. In fact, globally, the supply of vaccines from other manufacturers also and in India has outstretched the demand in the sense that, yes, the demand is very much there. We need to vaccinate large parts of the population still across the globe, but at least there's enough supply on a monthly basis to take care of that.
Now, you took huge risks. At the time that the pandemic began, no one knew anything about the virus. They were still working on it. And normally vaccine technology takes 5 to 10 years to gestate and get into production. What went into your mind? Why did you tie up with Oxford University, AstraZeneca? Why did you want to do something yourself? What was the decision making? And you were making huge investments. What was the kind of investments you're making?
Well, they were already ahead. They'd already conducted a phase 1, and for us to develop something on our own would take a lot of time. We already had a relationship with them because we're developing and going to manufacture the malaria vaccine, which we'll launch in 2 years. So we already had a working relationship with them. So they were the obvious first partner to go to when we heard the announcements also and were talking to their team. Initially we invested $250 to $270 million. Very soon, by May, June of 2020, I realized we needed close to $900 million to $1 billion. Because if we were going to make all these other different vaccines also to the scale of 1 billion dose capacity annually, we needed to put in that investment. And also buy the raw materials and the OPEX that was required. We hired 1,000 people just for the COVID activities, trained them. So all this was happening in 2020. Whilst in parallel the clinical studies and trials were going on globally and as well in India.
Now, what are the skill sets? I mean, for the ordinary person, you just see the vial and you think, yeah, okay, we'll take it. What are the skill sets required to manufacture a vaccine like this, particularly in the midst of a pandemic? It's not like a normal period that's there.
Well, it's a very specialized process.
Right.
It's not just, the average pharmaceutical product that has to be made. You've got, with a biological, so many different challenges when you do the bulk production. The yields, the consistency, the purity levels that you need to achieve. And then, of course, when you fill and finish the product, it has to be particulate free. It has to conform to all the parameters. I could write an essay on it, but I won't go into it today. So it is a very niche area. That's why you wonder why there are such few vaccine producers in the world. It's not something anyone can tomorrow just get into doing. That's why even globally, there have been vaccine plants that have been shut down because they've not been able to maintain the quality standards or make those plants profitable. Because again, don't forget, we work on a very low margin, but it's the volumes and scale at which one operates at which would determine your profitability.
And what makes Serum Institute the world's largest? What is the USP that Serum Institute has?
Well, I wouldn't call it a USP. It's just been my strategy, at least since I took over in 2011. I've been doing this now for 20 years when I joined the business, and my father founded it in the 60s. Since 2011, 2012, I've been building capacity ahead of time for all the vaccines and new vaccines that we were going to launch. And that really has come in handy here during the COVID crisis, because we were able to use those facilities, quickly rejig them, buy new equipment to just install the specific equipment we needed. And the world has always underestimated how much vaccine it needs with the growing population, in all these areas that we operate in, these 170 countries. And it was just our future planning that I always took that, I wouldn't call it risk, but just future planning, so to speak, that enabled us to be able to make so much so quickly.
And did you ever imagine that a pandemic of this would happen? What is,
No, look, there's always been debates on, epidemics and outbreaks coming about. You had the flu outbreaks. It wasn't really a pandemic in
Right.
2010, 2011. We made a flu vaccine also. But then at that time, as the need sort of went down, it wasn't a product that people wanted to keep vaccinating against, which, is done traditionally in the West, the Western countries. Having said that, then there was the Ebola outbreak, and we always assumed that there would be these outbreaks. You have even measles outbreaks in
Right.
certain parts of the world, where you need to then rush vaccines, and you want to be able to vaccinate the entire population of some of these countries which have very large populations. And in order to do that, you have to have large capacity, and you need to be able to rapidly produce and supply. That really is our USP, and that's how we're able to deal with these large needs and outbreaks. Of course, we could never imagine a global pandemic of this nature. You only see that in the movies. But as Bill Gates and many others have said in the past, you've seen that with the flu epidemics and plague and other things years ago. We haven't experienced anything of this magnitude, and there's nothing to say that it won't happen again. So we really have to be prepared, and the world has learned a lot of lessons, including,
Right.
In manufacturing, regulatory harmonization, so many other things. Hospitals, health systems, oxygen
Right.
supply, all these things that we've learned will play a major role in reducing the casualties and trauma, even to the economies going forward, if, God forbid, there are future pandemics. And God forbid if there are waves that come about, the third, fourth, fifth waves in certain countries should not devastate to the way in which they did earlier on with the first and second waves,
Right.
because now we're better prepared.